Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're uncovering the story of a pharaoh whose image was really quite different, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Unlike any other.
A ruler whose face seems to just scream responsibility, maybe even weariness, but also determination, an iron will.
That's a great way to put it.
This was the king who really defined the peak of Egypt's Middle Kingdom. We're talking power, prosperity,
Yeah,
the whole package.
indeed. A truly formidable presence. We're digging into Senusret III today. You might also know him as Senusret III or even Sesostris III from later legends.
Right, fifth king of that powerful 12th dynasty.
Yeah.
Ruling somewhere around, what, 1878 to 1839 BC?
That's the range, yeah. And you shared some fantastic source material. It really brings him to life, this powerful leader.
Absolutely. So our mission really for you listening is to unpack why Senusret III stands out. Why is he considered one of the greats? We'll look at his military stuff, those big campaigns, his reforms at home, that unique art.
And the legacy, how he was remembered, even morphed into legend.
Exactly. So let's get into it. Where do we start? His background.
Yeah, let's set the stage. So he's the son of Senusret II and Queen Nefertiti II. We know of several wives. Itikait, Nefertiti II. Their tombs were found near his pyramid at Dashur.
Okay.
Children are a bit debated, but Amenemhat III is pretty much accepted as his son and, importantly, his successor.
And his name. You mentioned Senusret III, but there were others.
Right. His birth name was Senusret, which means man of the goddess Wosret. His throne name, the one he took on becoming king, was Kakara, meaning appearing like the souls of Ra.
Kawara, okay.
But here's the interesting bit. He seems to have preferred ruling under his birth name, Senusret, which is quite unusual for a pharaoh.
That is interesting, like a personal statement almost. Does that maybe tell us something about him or the times? Because the situation he inherited wasn't exactly stable, was it?
Not entirely stable, no. You had these powerful regional governors, the nomarchs.
Ah, yes, the nomarchs.
Their positions had become hereditary, especially since the first intermediate period, that time of, well, chaos. Their power had grown significantly.
So basically, mini kings in their own districts.
Yeah.
A challenge to central authority.
Exactly, a real potential threat to the pharaoh's power, and Senusret III clearly intended to deal with that.
But first, military matters. He seems famous for that.
Very much so. Before tackling things at home, he turned his attention south to Nubia. His reign is really marked by relentless expansion there.
How relentless are we talking?
Well, we know of at least 4 major campaigns. Think years 8, 10, 16, and 19 of his reign. So roughly 1872, 1870, down to about 1860 BC. A sustained effort.
Wow, okay. And these weren't just skirmishes, right? This was about fundamentally changing the border, securing resources.
Precisely. And we have these incredible monuments that speak directly to the Semna boundary stele. Have you seen the text from the year 16 one?
I've read translations, and it's intense, that warning to his successors.
It's astonishingly blunt, isn't it? As for any son of mine who shall maintain this border which my majesty has made, he is my son born to my majesty. But then the threat.
But he who abandons it, who fails to fight for it, he is not my son, he was not born to me. That's laying down the law for generations.
Absolutely. No room for interpretation there. And he doesn't mince words about the Nubians either.
No, he doesn't. The description is quite brutal, calling them wretches with broken spirits, talking about capturing women, destroying crops.
My majesty has seen them. It is no lie. It's pure power projection. Military force combined with, well, psychological warfare. Establishing dominance.
It's pretty clear messaging. Don't mess with Egypt. Don't mess with Senusret III.
Exactly. And to back this up, he built this massive chain of fortresses. Think Buhen, Semna, Toshka, Uranardi. Huge mud brick structures.
Right, I've seen reconstructions. They look formidable. So
Yeah.
these were for defense, but also more.
Oh, much more. They controlled the river, regulated who came in and out of Egypt from the south, facilitated trade, specifically the gold trade.
Oh, gold. Always important.
Hugely important. Access to Nubian gold mines significantly boosted Egypt's wealth and international prestige.
So these campaigns were largely successful then. Any setbacks?
Well, there's mention of the last major campaign, year 19, being hampered by a low Nile flood. They actually had to retreat so they wouldn't get stranded.
Okay.
But it wasn't seen as a defeat. His reputation was solid. The border was secure.
And Nubia wasn't his only focus, right? What about towards the northeast, the Levant?
Good point. He also extended Egyptian influence there into Canaan and Syria. We have the Sebeku Stela, which is fascinating because it records the earliest known Egyptian military campaign in the Levant.
Really? What does it mention?
It talks about campaigning against Sekhmem, which scholars generally think is Shechem and retinue, a general term for the Syria-Palestine region.
So conquest there, too.
Not quite full-blown conquest like in Nubia. It seems to have been more about securing trade routes, maybe some limited military actions mixed with diplomacy, setting a precedent, you could say, for later pharaohs who did build an empire there.
Okay, so a mix of strategies depending on the region. Smart.
And speaking of practicalities, don't forget the canal.
Ah, the canal through the First Cataract. Near Aswan, right?
Near Sahel Island, yes. He had it cleared or possibly redug, a huge undertaking, but vital for bypassing the dangerous rapids. It made moving troops and trade goods up and down the Nile much, much easier.
Makes sense. So he's securing borders, controlling resources, improving infrastructure. A very busy pharaoh.
Extremely. Which brings us back to those nomarchs. How did he handle that internal power challenge?
Yeah, after all this external activity, what did he do at home?
Well, he was just as decisive internally. He enacted some really shrewd reforms, specifically aimed at breaking their power.
How did he manage that? They sound pretty entrenched.
He basically restructured the entire administration. He reduced the number of nomes, those administrative districts, which automatically reduced the number of nomarchs.
Fewer jobs for them, basically.
Kind of. And he regrouped the country into 3 massive administrative units, or Warit. Think Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, and the head of the south, which included northern Nubia.
And who ran these big districts? Not the old nomarch families, I assume.
No, they were governed by councils reporting directly to his central government, specifically to his vizier. Crucially, the officials were appointed by him, not inheriting the role.
Ah, so cutting off that hereditary power line, that's clever. A complete re-centralization.
It really was. It fundamentally shifted the balance of power back to the throne.
Were there repercussions? Pushback? Or was he just too powerful by then?
The sources don't explicitly detail major resistance, which might suggest his authority was pretty absolute by that point, but there was a major social impact, perhaps one he didn't fully intend.
Oh, what happened?
With the old aristocracy, the nomarchs, sidelined, it created opportunities for lower-level officials, scribes, administrators. A path for upward mobility opened up.
So like a new middle class started to emerge.
Exactly. People in these new administrative roles gained status, earned more, and with more disposable income.
They could afford better burials, commission art, that sort of thing.
Precisely. We see a flourishing of private art and tomb building during this period, reflecting this broader base of relative prosperity. It's a fascinating example of how top-down political changes can unintentionally reshape society from the bottom up.
That is fascinating. Political action creating social mobility.
Yeah.
And speaking of art, we have to talk about his statues. They are just unforgettable.
Aren't they? They're probably the most recognizable aspect of his reign for many people. That realism is just stark.
Stark is the word. He's shown at different ages, but always with this incredibly somber, almost world-weary look.
Yeah, those heavy-lidded, protruding eyes, sometimes with bags underneath, the lines on the face, this sort of downturned mouth, almost a grimace, and those huge ears.
Huge ears. It's such a contrast to the typical idealized forever young pharaoh look. And the body is usually still shown as strong and youthful.
Right. That contrast is key. So what does it mean? That's the big debate.
Yeah, what are the theories?
Well, some see it as a portrait of a burdened ruler, weighed down by responsibility, almost humanizing him.
Like the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Kind of. Others swing the other way. They see a dreadful, intimidating tyrant whose gaze misses nothing. The big ears hear everything. The weary eyes have seen everything.
The all-seeing ruler.
And a more recent idea is that it's not necessarily pure realism, but a deliberate artistic choice to convey the nature of kingship in his time, serious, difficult, maybe even harsh, a reflection of the job itself.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What message was he or his artists trying to send?
Whatever the intention, the art of his reign definitely shows this increased realism and detail, while still serving its, religious and functional purposes.
Is there other art that stands out?
Oh, yes. The pectoral found in his daughter Merit's tomb is spectacular. It shows Senusret as a griffin, trampling Egypt's enemies, Nubians and Libyans.
A symbol of his victories, then, and protection for her.
Exactly. A powerful amulet combining royal power and protective magic.
And this powerful image, this impact, it led to him being worshipped.
Really?
Even while alive.
Yes, which was incredibly rare for a pharaoh. He had a cult dedicated to him at South Abydos that lasted for centuries after his death.
Wow.
There's even a collection of hymns, the cycle of songs in honor of Senusret III, which praise him, comparing his power to the fierce goddess Sekhmet.
Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of destruction. That's some comparison.
It really emphasizes his warrior aspect. He who fires an arrow, as Sekhmet does, one line goes, he fells thousands of those unaware of his power.
Gives you chills. And of course, he built things too. Temples, his pyramid.
Absolutely. He added to the great temple of Amun at Karnak, built a temple for the war god Montu, did work at Abydos, and then there's his own pyramid complex at Dashur.
Dashur, right. Tell us about that. Was it as impressive as his reign?
Oh, it was massive. Built in mud brick, but originally cased in fine limestone, about 105 meters square at the base, maybe 78 meters high.
One brick core, okay.
And inside, a complex structure with a granite-lined burial chamber designed to thwart tomb robbers, though it didn't entirely succeed.
Did any? And wasn't his complex quite large? With other burials?
Yes, it had several smaller pyramids nearby for the royal women. That's where those amazing treasures belonging to Princess Sithithor and Queen Merit were found. Jewelry, caskets, stunning craftsmanship.
There's a question about whether he was actually buried in the Dashur pyramid, isn't there?
There is. Some Egyptologists speculate that Dashur might have been a cenotaph, a monument without the body.
So where would he have been buried?
The other possibility is his huge funerary complex down south, at Abydos. It's a very unusual structure, largely underground.
Underground, why?
It seems to be conceptually linked to the idea of descending into the underworld, the realm of Osiris. It's sometimes called the Mountain of Anubis, a very symbolic construction.
Fascinating. But we don't know for sure which was his final resting place.
No, because the Abydos tomb was also thoroughly robbed in antiquity, so the definitive evidence is lost.
Frustrating. And there's one more wrinkle with his reign. Right, the regency question. Did he rule alongside his son?
Yes. The regency debate with Amenemhat III. It's a classic Egyptological puzzle. There's some evidence, like a papyrus dated to both his reign and his son's.
Okay, that sounds suggestive.
And one scholar, Joseph Wegner, found evidence at Senusret III's Abydos temple, a ceiling dated to year 39. Since Senusret III's highest-known regnal year is usually considered year 19 or 20, Wegner argues this points to a much longer reign, overlapping significantly with Amenemhat III's as co-regents.
Year 39. That would be a long regency. What's the counter-argument?
Well, other scholars like Pierre Talla and Harco Willems are skeptical. They argue a regency wasn't necessary or typical for this period.
So how do they explain the year 39 note?
They suggest it could simply mean Amenemhat III was ordering work done at his father's temple much later, in year 39 of his own reign. It's about how you interpret that single piece of evidence.
Right. It shows how tricky interpreting ancient records can be. One note, multiple possibilities.
Exactly. History isn't always clear-cut.
So let's try and pull this all together. Looking back at Senusret III, what's the big picture for you, for our listeners?
Well, he truly fits that image of the warrior pharaoh, doesn't he? Military genius, strategic thinker.
Definitely. Securing borders, expanding influence.
But also a master administrator at home. Those reforms, breaking the nomarch's power and centralizing the state, were incredibly important. He really laid the groundwork for Egypt's later imperial age, the New Kingdom.
Yeah, he reshaped Egypt inside and out.
And his powerful image, his victories, they clearly stuck in people's minds. He got absorbed into the legend of Sesostris, this great conqueror figure mentioned by Greek historians later on.
Right, the legend grew bigger than the man. What about the connection some people make to the story of Joseph in the Bible? The Pharaoh during Joseph's time.
Yes. That connection is sometimes suggested, partly because the Middle Kingdom was a time of prosperity. But honestly, there's no real historical evidence from Senusret III's reign to support a massive famine like the one in Genesis, or a powerful vizier who was a foreigner.
So more likely a story drawing on Egyptian themes than actual history from his reign.
That seems most probable, yes. The motif of famine and wise advisors existed in Egyptian literature, too.
Okay, so we have the warrior, the reformer, the face etched with burden. It brings me back to those statues, that intense, realistic gaze. When you look at those statues, knowing everything he did, the wars, the reforms, the sheer scale of his rule, what does that face, that intentional portrayal tell you about what it meant to be king back then? About the cost, the character of leadership, maybe even less